Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to do something really cool. We're going to take this one tiny ancient word and use it like a key to unlock a whole bunch of doors in the English language. Let's get right into it.
So, to get started, I want you to think about this little puzzle. On the one hand, you have a newborn baby. On the other, a totally new political idea. And then a modern art movement. What on earth could possibly tie all of those things together? They seem completely random, right? Well, there's a fascinating connection hiding in plain sight.
And you know what? The answer isn't some super complicated theory. Nope, it's actually a single powerful key. A little piece of a word that has traveled thousands of years, all the way from ancient Greece, just to shape how we talk about our world today. So let's finally meet this key, this little root word that's going to unlock everything for us. And here it is, neo. Simple, right? It comes straight from the Greek word neos, and its meaning is just as straightforward as it gets. New, fresh, recent, or young. It's a prefix which just means it snaps onto the beginning of other words and boom, it gives them this instant sense of newness. Go ahead and lock that definition in your brain because honestly, it's the only tool we're going to need for this whole journey.
All right, we've got our key. Now the fun part. Let's actually test it out on a few locks and see how it works. We're going to start with some pretty common words, ones you've probably even heard before.
Just look at how cleanly this works. Take neonatal. You've got neo, meaning new, and natal, which relates to birth. Put them together, it's all about the newly born. Or how about neolism? That's just a fancy way of saying a new word. Think of a word like riz that pretty much just popped into existence recently. And a neophyte? Well, that's just a new person in a field, a beginner, a rookie. See that pattern? It's everywhere.
And here's a perfect real-world example. When someone says neonatal care is very important, what they're really saying is that care for the newly born is important. It's a perfect, direct illustration of how this little prefix does its job. Okay, so now that we've got the basics down, let's take our key into some more abstract places, like the worlds of art and philosophy. Because in these fields, newness is often all about reinventing the past.
In the art world, neo basically acts like a refresh button for entire artistic movements. Neoclassical art wasn't just about copying ancient Greece, it was a new take on those classical ideas for a totally different time. And the same thing goes for neorealism or neo-expressionism. Each one is a revival, a fresh spin on an old style.
And believe it or not, it's the exact same story when we get to the world of big ideas. Neoplatonism wasn't just rehashing Plato. It was a brand new school of thought that was inspired by his work, but hundreds of years later. Neo-humanism? It takes those core humanist ideas and adapts them for our modern, super-connected world. It's all about making old ideas new again.
All right, so we've been in the abstract world of art and ideas. Let's bring it back down to earth, to the concrete worlds of science and how we structure our societies. How does new show up here?
In science, neo often points to things that are new from a biological or historical standpoint. The neocortex? That's the part of our brain that evolved most recently. It's literally our newest cortex. A neoplasm is quite literally a new growth of cells. And the Neolithic period? Well, that was the new Stone Age, which was kicked off by new game-changing technologies like farming.
And in politics, neo gets used all the time to talk about modern versions of older ideologies. So when you hear terms like neoconservatism or neoliberalism, that neo is a huge clue. It tells you these aren't just the original ideas, they're newer versions, often shaped by major historical events or different economic realities. It's all about how a political framework evolves to fit a new time.
So we've seen neo pop up everywhere, from art history to our own brains. But that kind of brings up a bigger question, doesn't it? Why are we humans so obsessed with the idea of new in the first place?
Of course there's a word for it. It's called neophilia. It's that built-in love we have for things that are new and novel. This is the psychological engine that drives us to innovate, to create art, to explore new ideas. It's what keeps us constantly reinventing our world. It's the very human impulse behind the word neo. And you might be wondering, just how common is this little prefix? Well, get this, there are over 60 words in English built on this one simple root. We barely even scratched the surface today, which just goes to show you how fundamental the whole concept of new really is in our language.
So here's the real takeaway. Understanding neo is so much more than a vocabulary lesson. It's like having a special lens that lets you see change as it's happening.
It gives us a way to talk about how ideas, society, and even our own bodies are constantly evolving into something new.
And with that, the key is now yours. You get the power of Neo. So I'll leave you with a challenge. If you could invent one brand new word, a neologism, for something that exists today that we just don't have a word for yet, what would it be? Think about it. Thanks for joining me.